Hello. Every now and then somebody asks me how I record my videos, and I think usually what they're asking is how do I get it so that I can show something happening on the desk and simultaneously show something that the computer is doing on a window that's over the top of what's on the desk. So for example, maybe running something like Clean Flight Configurator, which is controlling a mini quad that's on the desk and showing how all the things are happening at the same time. And the way I can do that is thanks to some very useful utilities that exist on Linux. So this video is mainly going to be for Linux users who are interested in making YouTube videos. I'm not sure how much of this you may be able to do on Mac, because Mac is actually based on Linux, I think. So you may be able to do some of it. Probably not likely to be able to do anything much of what I'm about to show you on Windows. I have no idea and I'm not going to investigate. But yeah, so it's mainly for Linux users, this video. But I thought since I'm making a video about it and I've got my Handycam out here, I would look at some of the other things that I have in my setup, because I've ended up with a pretty good setup, I think at least, and I never intended to. So I just have a look at what I've got here, because it's not just, you know, what I was saying about having the overlay on the video screen there. It's also about having some nice lighting and good focus and decent audio that makes videos more enjoyable to watch. So if other people are intending to make this sort of videos about electronics, or about anything really, I guess some of this information that is not really Linux stuff may still be useful to know. So I'll just have a look at the stuff that I've got set up here on the outside of the computer, and then I'll get to the Linux stuff after that, and maybe the non-Linux people can go and do something else at that point, I suppose. Anyway, so a couple of years ago when I first started doing this, I think when I was making that cheap-ass quadcopter video series, I at first used my Nexus 7 tablet and I just sort of propped it up here on one of these like microphone stand things, and that worked, and it was quite good in that I could sort of see what was on screen, and I could record the audio together with it. But it had some problems in that the audio was very tinny sounding, didn't sound very good at all. I should have also drilled a small hole in the middle there before I stuck that on. I kind of forgot. And I also had to get the video files, big files, off of here onto my computer every time I wanted to upload them to YouTube. And if I wanted to do something on my computer, like at that time I was using the multi-Wii configurator and Arduino IDE, and you know, doing some uploading to the flight controller and stuff, I would have to sort of mix this video with that and do lots of editing and re-render the video before it could be uploaded. So it's just a bit of a pain in the ass, really. So what I've got now, where should we start? Let's start with these funny looking things. These are just some lights that I got a while ago from Banggood, and originally I was using a couple of these on, or one of these on each side, and that is an AC powered light, and the smoothing, making it into DC for the bulb, was not very good, and I had some people complaining that it was sort of making rippling effects in the video. I never actually noticed it until they pointed it out, and ever since then it bugged me, so I eventually changed to these ones. These are DC powered, and I got this thing also from Banggood. That's just a 12 volt output power supply to power those lights, and there's no more rippling effect on there, so hopefully everybody should be happy with that. And the soft boxes are nice for making, you know, soft shadows, so there's not too much hard shadows there, and they just sit up on these steel bars there and swivel down like that one on the left. So when I want them out of the way, I just pop them up like the one on the top, and when I want to use them, I just swivel them down and use them. And I found these to be, of course, good for making videos, but they're also very nice to have when you are doing some small fiddly work like soldering or building a mini quad or something like that. It's just very pleasant to have this like wash of light everywhere, and not much shadows. That's quite nice for working on stuff as well. Yeah, so that's lighting. For microphone, Originally I was using a tiny little webcam microphone, which didn't sound very good, so I upgraded to this one. I got this on Banggood. Most of the stuff is from Banggood actually. So these microphone stands are from Banggood as well. And this microphone, I'll put a link in the description, I think is about $20. So it's not really that expensive, but it has a fairly big diaphragm or membrane or whatever you call the thing inside there, and it's quite, it's a little bit directional actually, so if you point it directly at your mouth, it catches quite a good sound. The only slight drawback with this one is that it outputs a mic level signal, so it's very, very, very quiet, and you won't be able to use that directly to record into your computer. So what you're going to have to do is use a mic preamp to get it up to line level so that you can record it properly without sort of fuzzing and hissing and stuff, which is a bit of a bummer. And what I did to get that to line level originally is I used a kit set, electronic kit, that I got from somewhere. I think I'll try and find a link to where I got this from. I actually bought it on the street in Tokyo in a shop there, but you can buy them online, and it was about $7 and it worked really, really well. But the problem with it was that you needed to always have a battery for it. I was using a 2-cell LiPo, and I ruined a few LiPos by forgetting to unplug it and let the LiPos go down too low. And also a couple of times I was recording a video and the battery's cut out in the middle, so it was just really a bit of an annoying thing. So what I've used for that mic preamp now is this thing, also from Banggood. And this is it's a mixer, but it also has, on the mic inputs, it has the what do you call it, phantom power. So it handles all the preamp sort of amplifying of that signal to line level. I don't know if I really need to buy this. I haven't used it as a mixer yet. I've just used it for the mic preamp, so it was probably a waste of money. But anyway, it works, and it's nicer to have it powered off mains instead of worrying about batteries all the time. Alright, on to the webcam. This is a Logitech B910, I think. And the reason I chose this one is because it has quite good autofocus. Well, it has autofocus, and it has quite good close range focus as well, so I can focus from, I think, probably from about this far away, like about 4 or 5 centimeters, which is quite important when you're trying to look at little circuit boards and stuff like that. So when I want to use that, I just swing it around here, put it there somewhere, and then I can see on the screen what I'm doing. And then I can put my, I'll look at this in a little bit more detail in a minute, but I've positioned these windows so that I know exactly what's this area of the screen here is going to be the area that gets recorded from the screen grab. So then whenever I move a window into this area, it's going to be recorded in the final video. So I'm not sure if there's too much more to look at outside of the Linux stuff. Oh yeah, there was just one more thing I was going to show you outside of Linux. Sometimes I use this USB microscope to take a photo. I've never really used it for video, like moving video. It's really fiddly, and it's really difficult to get it to hold still on the thing that you're trying to take a picture of. And it also has some scratches along the lens which show up a lot in the picture until you get it focused just right. But it does take pretty decent photos, still photos, and it was only $15, so I'm okay with it for what it does. But I kind of would like to have something a little bit better. Yes, it came from Banggood as well. That's right. Okay, so onto the Linux specific stuff. So as I mentioned before, I'm recording from this webcam image here, but I'm not actually using this webcam program to do it. So this is called Cheese, and as you can see, I do use it to take still photos, this little strip along the bottom where are we? Along here. It's handy to take still photos, but usually all I do is turn it on and let the view show like this. So I don't use this program to record. What I use to record is ffmpeg, and I run a script which is over here on the in this folder here. There's a script, and I'll have the look at the contents of the script so we can see what it does. And I think I'm just going to use my handy cam to show you this and try and zoom in and look at it, because we should be able to get a pretty decent focus on it, and this will make less editing for me afterwards. Oops. Okay, so at the top there's just a little bit of a script to remind me that I need to give a file for the video to be saved to, if I forget to do that. And then the line number 6 is where it actually does what it does. So we just call ffmpeg, and the first little bit is the audio input. I'll put some links to some documentation for this in the video description, but we're going to use ELSA audio, and I'm specifying there in the next part a specific audio device, because you can have more than one audio device. For example, on my computer I have possible audio input from the webcam, and there's also audio coming from my microphone above the desk. So I want to make sure I get the right one. So that's what that card equals PCH is doing. Then the next bit, this is video now. So this is X11 grab. So that means that the source of the video is going to be the desktop or the screen, an area of the screen in this case, not the whole screen. R27 is the frame rate, and I figured this out by doing a lot of tests of recording for about 20 minutes or so and doing a little bit of talking at the end of the video, and then playing the video back and seeing how well the audio matched up with the video, because it gets slightly out of sync as the video goes on. So if I do a video that's 30 minutes long in one shot, I'll often find that near the end of the video it's almost a second out of sync. But 27 frames per second was a reasonable value to use, I found. So you'll probably have to experiment with that yourself, I think. The next thing is 1280 by 720. So that's the size of this webcam view approximately. The webcam view is actually a little bit bigger around the outsides, just to make sure that the edges of the webcam window itself are not showing. So it's a bit bigger than 1280 by 720, but the output video is going to be 1280 by 720. The reason it's not 1920 by 1080 is because I don't really have enough room on my monitor to do that, because I also want to have this over there on the side as my cheat sheet, or this area available to put like just a text editor to remind me of things to say, or if I'm showing some programming, I might have little bits of code in here that I'm going to copy and paste in so that I don't look stupid by, making compiler errors and things like that. So it's just handy to have that space to put other stuff that you're not going to see, because you're only going to see this bit in here. So on this particular monitor, it's just awkward to do that with the 1080p size display, so I've kept it to 1280 by 720. In Japan I had a larger desk, so I was actually able to put a second monitor over to the side so that I could have a whole monitor for my cheat sheet, and then I could do a 1080p video on here. But it just makes the file sizes bigger and it doesn't really gain you too much, I think, so I'm sticking with 720p for the moment. Alright, so the next bit there, 00 plus 304 300, that is very important because that sets the top left corner just here of where that 1280 by 720p area is going to be. So that makes sure that it's going to be this little area. Could actually be a little bit more up and to the left, I think, now that I look at it. Anyway, it works. And then preset very fast is, I think that gives you a little bit less compression, but it means that it uses less CPU to do the compression. And it's doing compression as it goes, which is very important. Well, I love it because it means that if I get everything lined up right so I can do it all in one shot, I can just drag and drop this video onto the YouTube upload without doing any further editing whatsoever, which is really, really nice. I haven't actually done that often, because usually I mess something up and I have to do an edit or something, but in the cases where you get it just right, that is a really, really helpful thing to have. And it also means that you're not going to be looking at huge, big video files to edit, because it's all compressed into MP4 format on the fly. And then the last bit there, that is just the -y, I think, will force overwriting the file. So it's not going to ask you if you want to overwrite an existing file, it will just overwrite it without asking. And then this bit here is just the output file name. So the $1 is, well, if I'm talking to Linux users, I don't need to tell you what $1 is, do I? Yeah. Anyway, so that's how that script works. So usually what I'll do is I'll open up my webcam window like that, and then down here I'll have a terminal open, and I'll just do, oops, I'll just run that script, and if I give it no name, it will remind me that I need to give it a name. So I'll just do test, and now we're recording and compressing at the same time. And we can see now there's a file up there called test that's being created, and I'll just stop that, and you can see it play, I suppose, if I play this. And now we're recording, and we can see now there's a file up there called test that's being created. Anyway, so that's how that works, pretty simple. Stop that. Yeah, so you'll probably have to fiddle around with some of these parameters and read the docs and check out what that name, what the device name for your audio is going to be on your system. But I found this to be very, very good. But it really helps to have one other thing set up and ready to go, and that is shortcuts to position windows into specific locations. So as I just said, I'm going to record a specific 1280 by 720p area of my screen there. So I set up a shortcut so that just by hitting this combination of keys, that window is going to exactly go into the right place every time. And in other cases, I want to show a program. So in this case, we're just looking at a text editor, but I want to make it look like this is taking up the whole screen in the video. So I have another shortcut key to do that, which is like that. So now I know that this area of the screen is exactly what's going to show up in my YouTube video. I also have another one that makes it half of the screen, which is good if you want to show something happening on the desk at the same time. And another shortcut just to put it on the other side of that, so it's just on the left and the right. I have a few other ones to make it like half of the screen and half of that screen on the other side, and to put it on the other monitor when I had a second monitor. So those are really handy to have. And the way those are set up is I'm using Fedora Linux, by the way, Fedora XFCE. It's sort of a simplified version of the standard Fedora. It just has a bit more basic, it has less stuff installed from the beginning. So if you want those things, you have to go and get them yourself. But I like it because it's not too fancy. It's just basic. So it has just sort of a Windows 95 style menu to start stuff up. Anyway, so in the keyboard section here, oops, keyboard, there is this thing which has application shortcuts, and there's probably similar stuff on Ubuntu as well, I would imagine. But we can see in this list here I've set up a whole bunch of keyboard shortcuts, and they're actually just batch scripts that you can run when that key press combo is used. So this one, move 1, is to move it to the left side of the screen. So it's going to run this script. I'll just copy that, and you can see that the key combination I've set is Alt 1 to do that. and I have lots of scripts in this Move Windows folder, so let's have a look at one of those scripts. I'll just do it in a terminal. So there is a couple of utilities here. One is called WM Control, which is Window Manager Control, and again I'll put a link in the description, or you can probably just use the man pages on Linux to read up about these. But basically it changes some of the characteristics of the window. So it's going to remove maximize status. Yeah, because I found that you couldn't set the position of a window if it's maximized, because if it's maximized it's always going to be full screen, right? So you had to remove those status flags. And then the thing that actually moves it is this other utility called xDoTool, and this is a bit tricky to figure out, but what it's doing is it's getting the active window, so whichever window is on top, it's going to act on that window, and then it's going to move it to, in this case, 00. So this script, remember, is the script that we're looking at is going to do this. So when I run it, it's going to make that window fill the left half of the screen. So it's going to put the position to move it to 00, and then again we do another command, window size 1280 by 1362, and the reason it's 1362 is I think my screen is 1440 pixels high, so I think it's something to do with the fact that I have a bar at the top. I'm not sure, I could probably make it a bit bigger actually, I'm not sure. The bottom of the screen we have some space as well for some reason. Anyway, that's a little bit odd. Maybe I should make it closer to 1440. Anyway, so you can make it whatever size you like there. And that's how these shortcuts work. So for every one of those shortcut key presses that I set up, I have a script like this. And this is maybe a bit confusing why there's so many lines in here, but the other ones are commented out. See, the last three are commented out. So those are for moving it to the other positions. So it's just that one, move one there, that's uncommented. That's why I was looking at that one. Okay, so that is most of the story. There's just one other thing I wanted to mention that can be important, or it might be important if you are doing this kind of filming, as so many of us electronicsy geek people are doing. We have this green, quite often a green cutting mat, and that caused a problem for me in that you can see that my hand looks like a lobster, like a sunburnt, looks like I've got a bad sunburn, it's all red. And I think that's because the camera is trying to adjust the white balance, because there's so much green in the picture that it's taking some green out of the picture, and it's taking the green out of my hand as well. And we end up with this really... Actually, if I put lots of my hand in, it's not too bad. But more often than not, I'm sort of zoomed out like this, and I get red like that. So this is curable, and this is a even more obscure utility that you can find on Linux, or at least I found it. And it's called UVC Dynamic Control. I guess that stands for Dynamic Control. But what that is it lets you change some. Well, there you go. Lib webcam command line tool. So we have some options here, and I'll just do the list available cameras first, so we can see what we've got. So we can at least see, just run it quickly one time to do something. So that lets me see that I have just the one camera, so that's my webcam, and that is Video 0 is the device for my webcam. Now if we look at that man page again, and I look right down the bottom, I just sort of discovered this by chance actually, so I'm not sure how useful this is going to be for anybody else. But we have a couple of options there to save and load the current state to a file. So let's try that. So I'm just going to do UVC, UVC that, and then I'm going to save it to a file called lobster. And I noticed that I'm not actually getting my hands looking like a lobster right now, so let me get the lobster state again. Yeah, that's it there. Okay, so I've saved a file called lobster with my hand as red, and now I'm going to turn the camera so that it's facing a bunch of things that have a lot more variation in colour in them. So there's green and red and blue and white, and there's some yellow. That's actually another nice feature about this system. You can put all this crap right beside your desk there, and nobody will know it's there because they can't see it. Even though your desk is really messy, they'll think it's clean. Until now, I suppose. Anyway, so I'm going to do that again, and I'm going to say this is going to be called, I'll call it colourful or something. And what happens is when we point it at something that has more colours in it, it changes the white balance to better match like the whole range of available colours. So let's just look at what's in one of these files. So let's look at the lobster file. And there's a bunch of things in there that don't mean much to me, although, oh, they are commented, aren't they? So there's sharpness, backlight compensation, exposure, stuff like that. And then if I do a diff of those two files that I just made, colourful, we'll see that there's just a couple of places where they differ. And it turns out this one here, I think, is the one that was important. So let's look at this line 98091A. 98091A. So that is there it is there. Yeah, that's the one. White balance temperature is different in these two files that we just made. So this white balance here, when I was looking at all of the variation in colours, is the one that I want to use. So what you can do is use the load option. So you can do UVC load equals colourful, and yeah. So if I run that, even when I'm looking at a screen that's all green, like my desktop there, and when it would normally set the colour balance to make me look like a red lobster, it's not going to do that because I'm manually overriding the white balance. So let's see if I can demonstrate this in action, assuming that colourful file we made was a good one. Let me just move this out of the way. See if I can get my hand nice and red. Ooh, oh, there we go. And then I'll run this. Oh, whoops. Okay, it doesn't work. Let me just run the one that I set up that does work. There you go, look at that. So I guess my scene there that I looked at with all this stuff was not really a good colour balance either. Probably what you could do is point your webcam at one of those test patterns that has all the colours in it that they use on TV sometimes. And that would give you a good range of colours for the white balance to get a good overall setting. Oh yeah, the file that I ran that did work just then was the one that I prepared earlier, which is that file there. It shows these errors, but it does the business. So I'm not sure why it shows errors, but to look at what's in that file, we just have a top of the window. So that's all it does. It calls that UVC dyne control thing, and then I specify device equals video 0, which, oh, that's what I wasn't doing before. Maybe that's why the one that I just tried before didn't work. Yeah, so I guess you need to specify the video device here. And then I'm loading just a text file that I made in the same way that I made the one just before. So yeah, that's all that does. Okay, so I think that's all of the recording involved stuff that I wanted to cover. But since it looks like there is actually somebody still watching this video out there, I just remembered something else that I do get asked, not so often, but every now and then. Somebody asks me what I use to edit the videos with. So I might just have a quick look at that. And I use a program called KDN Live, or however, KDE in Live, yeah, I guess. How else would you say that? And that is a pretty nice video editing software. So I just sort of drag my video into here, and don't worry about that. Put it down here, and then we can sort of skip through it. And God, that's a boring video, isn't it?
You can see it play, I suppose.
Oops. Yeah, goes a bit funny at the end. And then yeah, you just put more clips on here and line everything up and cut them and so on. And I use GIMP to make the text overlays, like the captions. And I made quite a useful script to do shadowing on the text, which I'll put a link to in the description as well. And so the way I do that would be, in this case we're looking at 1280 by 720, make an image and then give it transparency, delete it, put some text on in white, well, usually white. Oops, that'll be white. Let's make it bigger, so that's some text. And then I just run my script, and this does everything in one step. It saves me quite a bit of time, because there's quite a few steps to put that text shadow there. So what I'm talking about is the black around the edge, like that. And if you don't have that, when this is white text on a white background, you can't see it. So the shadow just helps the white text to stand out regardless of what the background is. And then I'll export that to a place somewhere. Where are we? Yep. And then I'll just drag that onto my video editor, like so. Put that on here. And if you put it on as is, unfortunately it doesn't use the transparency properly. Well, it would be nice if this could be done in one step, but what we've got to do is put a transform on it, like this. Sorry, a transition, like that. And it's an affine transition, and then you've got to stretch it out to make it the right width. And now we should see that we have some text showing up over my boring video. Why isn't it playing?
Test.
Oh, there we go.
That's being created. And I'll just stop that. And,
yeah, so that's it, I think. Hope that was useful and not too boring. I'm sure a few of those Linux tips will be handy for somebody out there. So now I have to pack all this up, because I'm actually moving house tonight, so that's why I wanted to, or tomorrow, so that's why I wanted to make this video tonight before I shift everything. Anyway, thanks for watching.